Standard. This is standard. It's people. I mean, I said this on the last stream. People, standard's so slow. There's no power in standard, and it's like, what are you, out of your mind? Have you seen the play pattern? Just not even in this deck, but the play patterns that we've seen tonight. Just tonight. Standard is a powerful format at the moment, man. I don't know how to break it to you, but Standard is a very powerful format right now. Standard is a ridiculous environment at the moment. At the moment. Not at some point in the recent past when Throne of Eldraine was a... No, Standard's a crazy environment. Goldspan, you see what I mean? Like, you can't just play garbage anymore, right? You can't just play, like, lame, like, low synergy budget decks and stuff like that. You can't just play high synergy piles like Dina and expect to win too many games right now. Because, like, decks don't care about synergy, right? Like, there's synergy. Look at this. There's synergy in this deck. But all the synergy involves playing good cards already. Like, Reflection of Kiki Jiki synergizes with Goldspan. It synergizes with Corpse Appraiser. It synergizes with Blood Tithe Harvester, right? But it's not because that synergy exists that all 4 of those cards are in the deck. Blood Tithe Harvester is an extremely powerful card. Goldspan, super powerful. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is unbelievably powerful. Right? Like, all of these cards are just ridiculously crazy by themselves on whatever turn that you play them. It's just with Fable, they're very good, But, if your opponent goes Blood Tithe Harvester into Fable of the Mirror Breaker, well, they put effectively 5 actions onto the table in the first 2 turns. If they went first, that's crazy, right? They went Blood Tithe, so that's a creature and a blood token. Fable of the Mirror Breaker is 2 drawn cards, 2 discarded cards, a 2/2 guy, treasure tokens, and another 2/2 guy later that makes even more guys. So you're putting technically infinite permanence on the table when you pay 3 mana on turn 3 on the play for a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, right? So it's just Standard is an unbelievably powerful format. Like, you can't just Marauding Blight Priest on turn 3. You just can't do it because your opponent played Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And it's just these cards are 2,000 times more powerful. So, like, you can't just screw around. People think you can just screw around in Standard and it's fine. No, dude, you can't afford to do that. And that's just the Vampires deck, which is playing a really good card on every turn of the game. It's playing one of the best cards it could play on every turn of the game. But it's not playing especially fast. It feels fast because it gets to play a really good card every turn, right? But it's technically not fast at all, right? Like, something like Boros. We played against a couple of decks tonight that were on the play, aggro decks, breathe down your neck within, that long. It's like you play Luminarch Aspirant on turn 2. If your opponent plays a creature, you play Brutal Cathar, you play another Brutal Cathar, right? It's like, and just that line, just Luminarch Aspirant and a Brutal Cathar on the play wins games. Just that line. Those 2 guys by themselves, So Standard is in an unbelievably powerful place right now, and honestly, it's not going to lose too much power with rotation. People think Kaldheim is a really powerful set, and it is. Kaldheim's a super powerful set. But when you look at some of the problematic cards in the format right now, they all stay. Like Luminarch Aspirant leaves, that's a good one to leave. But Goldspan Dragon leaves, that's fine. There's a few. Lolth leaves, whole decks are built around that card effectively, Blood on the Snow, all that. So there's a couple of annoyances that leave the format whenever I have to deal with them again, but, Boros Aggro is still a deck. Arcane Bombardment, more of a deck, guaranteed, because there's not going to be as many Vanishing Verses and stuff, so more of a deck, almost certainly. Is it? Loses Lear, loses Goldspan, probably still a deck. You'd be surprised. It's probably still going to be a deck. Mono White might still be a deck. And again, the Boros aggro deck is going to be everywhere in the early days of the format, almost certainly. So, when it comes to cards like Fable of the Mirror Breaker and decks like, Low to the Ground aggro that just runs you over in 3 turns, like it's still going to exist. Look forward to that. I think what balances Fable is that it can be a dud with nothing to clone. That's true. If you get a second copy of Fable, though, But even then, let's say your Reflection of Kiki Jiki is just sitting on the table like a big old grapefruit nobody wants for breakfast, right? It's just everybody wants bacon and eggs and pancakes and stuff, and just lonely old grapefruit sitting there. Doesn't taste very good on the table, right? So even if it does that, Even if it's just a 2/2 garbage thing, doesn't have anything to copy, right? It still made you another 2/2. Like it's still 3 mana for 4 power on 2 guys. And maybe the first guy got you treasure. And definitely if you got to the second 2/2, you got to draw 2, discard 2, right? So like even if it's just a 2/2 that doesn't do anything, like it already gave you so much value. It's ridiculous. I like when Standard is a value-driven format, okay? Which might lead you to believe that I like cards that produce a lot of value, but that's not true. I like a Standard format that is value-driven, but that value is very incremental, right? As opposed to, oh, I play Fable of the Mirror Breaker on turn 3. Now I get a guy, and I get ramp, and I get to draw cards, and I get to filter, and I put stuff in my graveyard I'll get back later, and I get another 2/2, copies my Titan of Industry. Like, that's what you do on turn 3. That's not incremental value. That's not incremental value. That is ridiculous value. Or, like, maybe I'll, turn 4 reanimate my Titan of Industry, and now I get to blow up your thing over there, your artifact or enchantment, and get a 4/4 and a 7/7 on turn 4. Like, that's not incremental value. I like standards where no matter who goes first, who draws first, you have games where you're looking at edge cases to get 2 or 3% here or there over your opponent in a match, and like you are grinding, it's attrition, you get value over turns, and eventually those 2 and 3% edges add up, and that person is more likely to win the game. I like that standard. But cards like Fable of the Mirror Breaker and other cards that just create like ridiculous amounts of value, they don't lead to that kind of standard. They just are the best cards in that standard, and there's no reason not to play them, which doesn't lead to the kind of standard that I'm describing. So it's a balancing act for Wizards, and I don't envy them that, right? Like they have to create just enough value, but not too much. But sometimes cards like Oko or Fable of the Mirror Breaker or Omnath, like these were obviously like way too much value. I don't know how those got out of playtesting. Old Rutstein plus Galagreators is some nice value. I think Old Rutstein is good value, period. I really like that guy. Old Rutstein is a good example of the kind of value that I want. Or like Skullport Merchant. I've talked about him before, right? He's a 3 mana 1/4. That's good but not too good on power, but he blocks well. He draws cards, but for a price, right? You can't just like sack a guy, draw a card. You have to pay mana. That's good. And he gets you a treasure token. So he pays you back 1. So it's kind of like a 2 mana 1/4, but you have to pay 3 for it up front. Treasure makes any token, so like or any color rather. So there's a ton of value on Skullport Merchant, but like unlike a Fable of the Mirror Breaker, a Skullport Merchant will not win you the game by itself, like ever. It'll go a long way towards you winning the game if you draw like 2 cards, 3 cards off of it. That's really good. But again, that's the kind of value that I like. It's incremental, and Rutstein's like that. Rutstein creates value for you once a turn, and you don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be decent. You know it's going to be either a 1/1 guy or it's going to be a treasure token, and both those things are awesome. He creates value when he comes into play. He's a 3 mana 1/4, and I tend to kind of like that stat line. I like 3 mana 2/4s even more, but those are... they exist. They are existent, but a little more rare. But still, dudes like that, I really, really like. And I hope that Rutstein kind of takes Skullport Merchant's place because, Rutstein's legendary, right? So you just play like a 2 of Rutstein when you play that card. Skullport Merchant is kind of the same. Like you don't really play 4 Skullport Merchant in a lot of lists. Like a lot of lists play 1 to 2 Skullport Merchant. And that's how Rutstein is too. So I think he's going to take the place of Skullport when you want him, And if we go into a more sort of slower, incremental, more traditional mid-rangey standard, which we're already seeing, obviously, breadcrumbs towards that. If we see that a little bit more, then cards like Rutstein are going to be great at creating that sort of incremental value that I really enjoy. Old Rusty. That's why we got to build the Rutstein deck, right? Old Rusty comes down, gives us a little pest boy. It's a good. You gonna dig some treasure up for us, there, Rusty? Rusty Wallace. It's a NASCAR driver. I don't know how I know that. It's because I'm from the South, and you're born, and they give you a little microchip with all the Southern information. You know you can put peanuts in Coca-Cola? Like, did you know that? That's the South. Ugh. You know all the words to Don't Take the Girl by Tim McGraw? You're from the South. Have that. It's like, God, I don't want it.